Two Friends and the Bear Story. Once upon a time, in a quiet little village surrounded by whispering pine forests, there lived two best friends, Aaron and Ben. They had grown up together, laughed together, and promised to stand by each other no matter what. One bright morning, they decided to travel across the forest to reach a nearby town for trade. Before leaving, an old man warned them, "The forest is beautiful, but remember, it also tests friendship." They smiled and set off, confident in each other's company. At first, everything felt perfect. Sunlight dancing through trees, birds singing, and a cool breeze brushing their faces. They shared food, jokes, and dreams. But as they went deeper, the path grew darker and quieter. Suddenly, a deep growl echoed between the trees. The sound of heavy footsteps approached. A massive bear emerged from the shadows, its black fur glistening, claws scraping the ground. Aaron froze in fear. "Ben, what do we do?" he whispered. Ben's heart raced, and in panic, he climbed up a tall tree, leaving Aaron behind. Aaron had nowhere to go. He remembered what his father once told him. "When you're in danger, keep your mind calm. Fear never saves anyone." He quickly lay flat on the ground, pretending to be dead, knowing that bears don't touch lifeless bodies. The bear came close, breathing heavily near Aaron's face. Its warm breath brushed his ear, and then, after a long sniff, it walked away slowly into the forest. When the danger had passed, Ben climbed down the tree, trying to smile, and joked nervously. "Ha! That was close. What did the bear whisper in your ear?" Aaron stood up, brushed off the dirt, and said quietly, "He told me, never trust a friend who leaves you in danger." Ben's smile faded. Shame filled his heart. That day changed them both. Aaron learned that true friendship shines brightest in dark times, not in comfort. Ben realized that fear and selfishness can destroy the bond of trust in seconds. When they finally reached the town, they walked in silence, not as enemies, but as two people who had learned the real meaning of loyalty. Moral: a friend in need is a friend indeed. True friends don't run away when storms come. They stand beside you, even when the world turns dark. The Poor Woodcutter and His Axe Story. Once upon a time, deep within a quiet forest surrounded by tall, whispering trees, there lived a poor woodcutter named Thomas. Every morning before sunrise, he would walk miles carrying nothing but his old iron axe and a loaf of bread. His hands were rough, his clothes were torn, and his stomach often growled from hunger, but his heart was honest, and his faith unbroken. Thomas believed that hard work was the only path to dignity. He never stole a single branch, never lied to anyone, and always thanked the forest for its gifts before cutting wood. One hot afternoon, as Thomas swung his axe near a riverbank, the handle slipped from his sweaty palms. The axe flew through the air, and with a heavy splash, vanished into the deep river below. Thomas froze. His only tool had gone. Without it, he couldn't earn a single coin. He fell to his knees by the river and whispered, "Please, God, help me. I have nothing left but honesty and faith." Suddenly, the water began to shimmer. From its depths rose a gentle light, and within it appeared a radiant angel holding a golden axe. "Is this your axe?" she asked. Thomas looked at the glittering blade. It was beautiful, worth more than he'd ever earned in his life. But he shook his head. "No, my axe was made of plain iron. This one is not mine." The angel disappeared and returned again, this time with a silver axe. "Perhaps this one?" she asked. Thomas smiled sadly. "That's not mine either." Finally the angel reappeared a third time, this time holding an old rusted iron axe. Tears welled in Thomas's eyes, and he cried, "Yes, that's mine." The angel smiled. "Your honesty has pleased the heavens. Take all 3 axes, the gold, the silver, and your own, for your heart is pure." Thomas trembled with gratitude. "But I only need what is mine," he said humbly. The angel insisted, "The honest man deserves more than he seeks." From that day, Thomas never lived in poverty again. With his new-found blessings, He helped the poor, built shelter for travelers, and planted trees where he once cut them. The villagers admired him, not for his wealth, but for his unwavering honesty. Years later, when people asked him how he became so prosperous, Thomas would smile and say, "Honesty may not fill your pockets today, but it fills your life with peace tomorrow." Moral: honesty is the foundation of true success. Wealth earned with lies disappears, but the reward for truth lasts forever. The Boy Who Cried Wolf Story. In a quiet little village surrounded by green meadows and rolling hills, there lived a humble farmer named Eli and his young son Liam. Their life was simple, tending sheep, growing fruits, and living off the land. One bright morning, Eli said to his son, "Liam, I'm heading to the market to sell our fruits. Watch the sheep carefully, and don't wander off." Liam nodded eagerly. He loved the wide fields and the playful bleating of the sheep. But after hours of standing alone under the sun, boredom began to crawl into his mind. The hills were silent, the sheep were peaceful, and there was nothing exciting happening. That's when a mischievous thought struck him. What if I shouted "Wolf"? Everyone would come running. It'll be funny. So Liam took a deep breath and yelled, "Wolf! Wolf! Help! There's a wolf attacking the sheep!" Within moments the villagers dropped everything. Men with sticks, women with baskets, even the old blacksmith came rushing up the hill. But when they arrived, all they saw were calm sheep grazing in the field, and Liam laughing uncontrollably. The villagers frowned. One of them said angrily, "Boy, don't waste our time. This isn't a game." But Liam only giggled. He enjoyed the attention. A few days later, he did it again, louder this time. "Wolf! Wolf! Please help!" Once again, the villagers came running, but again, there was no wolf. When they realized he was lying, they scolded him harshly. "If you keep lying, no one will believe you when you really need help." Liam laughed it off. He didn't think it mattered. That evening, dark clouds gathered over the hills, and a chilling wind swept through the grass. As Liam watched the sheep, his smile faded. From behind a rock, glowing eyes stared back at him, a real wolf. Its growl rumbled through the air. Terrified, Liam screamed at the top of his lungs, "Wolf! Wolf! Please help! It's real this time!" But no one came. The villagers, tired of his false alarms, stayed home shaking their heads. The wolf attacked the flock, and by the time it disappeared into the trees, one sheep was gone and another lay wounded. Liam's hands trembled as he cried. His laughter had turned into regret. When Eli returned home and saw fewer sheep, he was heartbroken. "Liam, now you understand why truth matters," his father said softly. "Trust, once broken, is not easily rebuilt." That night, Liam couldn't sleep. He realized that every lie he told had built a wall between him and the people who once cared for him. From that day forward, he never lied again, not even about small things. Slowly, the villagers began to trust him once more, because truth, though fragile, always finds its way back when guarded sincerely. Moral: a single lie can destroy years of trust. Speak truth even when it's hard, because honesty builds the bridges that deceit burns. The Wise Judge and the Two Mothers Story. Once upon a time, in a peaceful little town surrounded by gardens and narrow cobblestone paths, a group of children were playing under the bright morning sun. Their laughter filled the air, innocent, joyful, and free. Not far away, two women approached the garden, but suddenly a cry broke the calm. "Hey, stop! Why are you lifting my child?" shouted one woman. The other turned sharply, holding the little boy in her arms. "Your child? He's mine." The child was too young to speak. His small eyes darted from one woman to the other, confused and scared. Within moments, the argument turned into a loud quarrel. People from nearby streets gathered around to watch the chaos. An old villager stepped forward and said, "Enough. Let's not fight here. There is a wise man in this town who can solve any problem with fairness. Let's take the matter to him." The crowd nodded, and soon they were all walking toward the wise man's humble home. Inside, The wise man sat quietly in meditation. When the villagers called his name, he slowly opened his eyes and looked at the two women standing before him, one trembling with anger, the other holding back tears. "What brings you here?" he asked calmly. "Sir," said one of the villagers, "both these women claim that the boy is their son. Please help us find the truth." "Sir," said one of the villagers, "both these women claim that the boy is their son. Please help us find the truth." The wise man looked at both women and said gently, "Tell me, sisters, what exactly happened?" The first woman stepped forward. "Sir, I was jogging in the garden when I saw this lady trying to lift my child. I stopped her, but she began shouting that my son was hers." The other woman raised her voice. "She's lying. I was simply picking up my child to go home when she ran toward me and started accusing me." The wise man closed his eyes for a moment, thinking deeply. Then he stood up and said, "All of you, come with me." He led them to an open courtyard and drew a circle on the ground. He placed the small boy in the center and said, "Both of you stand on opposite sides of the circle. You must each pull the child to your side. Whoever pulls him completely out of the circle will be declared the mother." The crowd gasped in silence. The two women looked at each other and then at the boy. At the wise man's signal, they began pulling. The boy screamed in pain. His tiny arms trembled. He began to cry helplessly. In that very moment, one of the women, unable to bear the child's suffering, let go and covered her face, sobbing. The other woman pulled harder, shouting, "I've won! The child is mine!" The wise man raised his hand to silence the noise. Then he turned to the woman who had let go and said softly, "Tell me, why did you release him?" Her eyes were full of tears. "Because I couldn't watch him suffer. I'd rather lose him than see him in pain." The wise man smiled. "Only a true mother would feel that way," he said. "This child belongs to the woman who chose his peace over her pride." The crowd murmured in awe. The other woman, realizing her deception had been exposed, lowered her head in shame and walked away. The real mother fell to her knees, holding her child close as tears of joy rolled down her face. The wise man's eyes shone with quiet satisfaction. Another truth restored, another lesson learned. Moral: true love means letting go when it hurts, for love is not about possession, but compassion. A real mother's heart chooses the child's peace over her own pride. Sarah and the Missing Dog: The Test of True Intelligence. Once upon a time, in a quiet little town surrounded by rolling green hills, lived a wise and kind mother with her two children named Sarah and Monty. Sarah was calm, observant, and thoughtful, while Monty was energetic, curious, and loved to take quick action. Both were bright in their own ways, and their mother loved them deeply. One sunny afternoon, as the mother tended to her garden, 3 playful dogs wandered through her gate. Watching them run around sparked a clever idea in her mind. She said to herself, "For a long time, I've wanted to test which of my children is smarter, not just in books, but in real life." She took a marker and wrote numbers on the dogs, 1, 2, and 4. Then she called out, "Sarah, Monty, come here, children." When they arrived, she pointed at the dogs and said with a thoughtful smile, "Look carefully, my children. Dog number 3 seems to be missing. Whoever finds it before sunset will be the smarter one." Monty immediately grabbed his binoculars and rushed into the fields, determined to prove himself. He searched the park, climbed hills, looked under bushes, and even asked the neighbors. But no matter how hard he tried, there was no sign of a dog numbered 3. Meanwhile, Sarah stayed in the garden. She noticed something strange. Only 3 sets of footprints were visible in the soft soil. She carefully followed them and realized something important. If there were only 3 dogs' footprints, then one of the numbers must be wrong. When the sun began to set, both children returned to their mother's room. The mother smiled gently and asked, "Monty, did you find dog number 3?" Monty lowered his head. "I searched every corner, Mom, but I couldn't find it." Then the mother turned to Sarah. "And you, Sarah?" Sarah smiled confidently. "Yes, Mom, I found dog number 3. Please come with me." She led her mother and brother back to the garden and pointed to one of the dogs. "Here is your dog number 3, she said. The mother raised an eyebrow. "But this is dog number 4, Sarah explained calmly. "When I was observing the footprints, I realized that only 3 dogs had entered the garden. That meant one number must be a mistake. So I concluded there was never a dog number 3 missing. The 4th one simply didn't exist. I renamed this one dog number 3 because the missing number wasn't missing at all. It was imaginary." The mother's eyes softened with pride. She said, "Sarah, you have proven that true intelligence is not about running faster, but about thinking deeper. You didn't just look for answers, you looked for truth." Monty smiled too, understanding the lesson. That day, he learned that wisdom isn't about effort alone, but also about perspective. And from that day on, their mother often said, "Action may bring results, but observation brings understanding." Moral: true intelligence is not about how fast you act, but how deeply you think. Observation is the foundation of wisdom. Cinderella, the Power of Kindness. Story: once upon a time, in a faraway kingdom surrounded by golden fields and tall silver towers, there lived a gentle girl named Cinderella. Her heart was as pure as morning dew, and her smile could soften even the coldest day. But life had not been kind to her. After her mother passed away, she lived under the roof of her stepmother and stepsister, who treated her not like family, but like a servant. Every day, Cinderella cleaned dusty floors, washed clothes until her hands ached, and cooked for people who never thanked her. Yet, through all her pain, she chose kindness. She spoke softly to birds and fed the hungry mice in the corners of her room. Even when no one cared for her, she kept her light alive. One bright morning, a royal announcement echoed through the land. The prince was hosting a grand ball. Every young lady was invited. The palace would open its doors to dreams. Cinderella's heart leaped. "Maybe, just maybe I can go too," she thought. But her stepmother laughed cruelly. "A maid like you in a royal palace? Impossible. You will stay home and clean while we dance." As the grand night arrived, Cinderella watched from her window as the carriage carrying her stepmother and stepsister disappeared into the distance. Tears filled her eyes. For the first time, she felt completely alone. But just then, a soft golden light filled her room. It was her fairy godmother, a gentle, glowing woman with eyes full of wisdom. "Why are you crying, my dear?" she asked. Cinderella explained her sorrow. The fairy smiled warmly. "You have been kind and patient when the world was cruel. Tonight, that kindness will shine." With a wave of her wand, magic danced through the air. The torn dress became a shimmering gown. Her worn shoes turned into glass slippers, and a simple pumpkin outside glowed and transformed into a golden carriage. But before sending her off, the fairy whispered, "Remember, my child, this magic fades at midnight. Use your time wisely." At the palace, as Cinderella stepped into the ballroom, the crowd went silent. Her beauty was not just in her dress, but in her heart. The prince couldn't take his eyes off her. They danced as if time had stopped, two souls meeting by fate, bound by grace. But as the clock struck 12, the spell began to fade. Cinderella ran, her glass slipper slipping off her foot. She disappeared into the night, leaving behind only a piece of her story. The next day, the prince searched the kingdom for the mysterious girl. One by one, the women tried on the slipper, but it fit no one. When he arrived at Cinderella's house, her stepsister tried desperately to force it on, but it was hopeless. Then Cinderella stepped forward, humble and calm. "May I try?" she asked. The slipper slid perfectly onto her foot. The prince's eyes filled with recognition. She was the one. Her step-family was speechless. But Cinderella, instead of anger, chose forgiveness. She knew that true strength isn't in revenge, it's in grace. Soon, she married the prince. The palace that once felt unreachable became her home. But Cinderella never forgot where she came from, and she never stopped being kind. Her story became a reminder that kindness is the most powerful form of magic. It transforms lives, not with spells, but with heart. Moral: kindness is the real magic that turns pain into purpose. No matter how hard life gets, stay kind, stay humble, and your light will guide you through the darkness. The Loyalty Test Story. In a peaceful town surrounded by rolling hills and golden fields, there lived a wealthy old man named Mr. Raymond. He owned a large mansion, several businesses, and vast lands. But as time passed, he realized that riches could buy comfort, not trust. For years Mr. Raymond had been served by a quiet and humble man named Samuel. Samuel had joined him when he was barely 20, and now, after 15 years, he had become like family. He never complained, never disobeyed, and always spoke with respect. Yet, in Mr. Raymond's heart, there remained one question that haunted him. Is Samuel truly loyal, or does he stay because of my wealth? One evening, while watching the news, Mr. Raymond saw a report about a servant who had stolen his master's fortune and disappeared. The story unsettled him deeply. That night, as he walked past his study, his eyes fell upon his grand locker filled with cash, gold, and documents worth millions. He thought to himself, I have trusted Samuel blindly, but trust without proof is like a bridge without pillars. The next morning, he decided to test Samuel's loyalty. During breakfast, Mr. Raymond called Samuel. Samuel, he said, pretending to be tired, I'll be visiting my farmhouse for a few days. I want you to take care of the house while I'm gone. Samuel bowed politely. Yes, sir. Don't worry. Everything will be taken care of. Before leaving, Mr. Raymond secretly moved all his money and gold to a hidden vault behind a false wall in his study. He left only a few fake gold coins and papers in the locker, enough to tempt anyone who looked inside. Then he packed a small bag, called his driver, and left the mansion, though he didn't actually go far. He stayed at a nearby guest house, watching through security cameras to see what his trusted servant would do. That night, Samuel walked into the study to clean. As he dusted the shelves, his eyes accidentally fell upon the locker. For the first time, he noticed it slightly open. He froze. Inside, a golden glint shimmered under the lamp's light. For a moment his mind filled with thoughts. No one is home. No one will know. Just one coin. Just one. But then he shook his head violently. No, this wealth isn't mine. My honesty is the only treasure I own. He closed the locker, locked it properly, and went back to his chores. What he didn't know was that Mr. Raymond was watching everything through the hidden cameras, every movement, every hesitation, every decision. The next evening, there was a knock at the door. A man in shabby clothes stood outside, pretending to be a salesman. Good evening, sir. I sell household items. Can I show you something? Samuel smiled politely. No, thank you. My master isn't home. Please come some other day. The stranger leaned closer and whispered, I know who you are. You're his servant, right? I also know what he keeps inside that locker. If you help me get it, we both can disappear rich forever. Samuel's eyes widened in anger. Leave this place before I call the police. He slammed the door shut. The hidden camera near the entrance recorded everything. In that moment, Mr. Raymond's eyes filled with tears. He passed the second test, he whispered. His loyalty is pure. The storm and the fire. 2 days later, a thunderstorm struck the town. A short circuit in the kitchen caused a small fire. Samuel risked his life to save the house. He used blankets to stop the flames, called the fire department, and stayed up all night cleaning the damage. When Mr. Raymond returned the next morning pretending to know nothing, Samuel immediately apologized. I'm sorry, sir. There was a fire last night, but I managed to stop it. I've already arranged for repairs. Mr. Raymond smiled faintly, but said nothing. He walked straight to the locker and opened it. Everything was untouched, exactly as he had left it. He turned toward Samuel and said quietly, Pack your things. Samuel looked confused. Sir, did I do something wrong? Mr. Raymond's voice softened. No, Samuel, you did everything right. But there's one last trip I want you to take. With me. They drove to the farmhouse together, In the quiet of the countryside, Mr. Raymond led Samuel into a small room. There, behind a curtain, stood another locker. He opened it, revealing stacks of real gold, cash, and property papers. Samuel gasped. "Sir, I don't understand." Mr. Raymond smiled warmly. "This is the wealth I hid before I left. I wanted to see whether your honesty was true, or if it faded when temptation called." He placed a hand on Samuel's shoulder. "You didn't fail me. You didn't fail yourself." Then he handed Samuel a small box. Inside was a golden key. "This key is to a new house in your name. You've earned it, not by serving me, but by staying loyal when no one was watching." Tears rolled down Samuel's cheeks. "Sir, I never wanted your gold. I only wanted your trust. And now," Mr. Raymond said, smiling, "you have both. Moral: loyalty is not proven in comfort. It is tested in temptation. True character shines brightest when no one is watching. Trust once earned through honesty becomes wealth that no gold can replace." The Sword Between Friends story. Once upon a time, in a quiet little village surrounded by green fields and golden sunshine, there lived two best friends, Jack and David. They grew up together, studied together, and dreamed of seeing the world beyond their small town. One morning, David came running to Jack's house and said with excitement, "I have some work in another town. Will you come with me?" Jack smiled. "Of course, my friend. Wherever you go, I go." So the two friends began their journey along a dusty road lined with tall trees. Birds sang overhead, and the breeze carried the scent of wildflowers. As they walked, they talked about dreams, laughter, and friendship. After a few miles, something shiny caught Jack's eye. Half buried under the leaves lay a beautiful silver sword. Its handle sparkled in the sunlight, and its blade glimmered like glass. "Look, David," Jack shouted. "What a beautiful sword I have found." David stepped closer, smiling. "We both are traveling together, Jack, so you should say we both found it." But Jack shook his head. "No, no. I saw it first, so it's mine." David's smile faded. He stayed quiet, but his heart sank a little. The road that once felt light suddenly felt heavier. They continued their journey in silence until, suddenly, a police officer stopped them. "Excuse me, gentlemen," the officer said firmly. "We're searching for a murder weapon, a sharp sword. I need to check your bag." David looked at Jack nervously. "I think we both got into trouble," he whispered. But Jack stepped back and said coldly, "Not we. Only you got in trouble." And before David could speak, Jack ran away, leaving his best friend behind. The officer found the sword and, assuming David was the suspect, arrested him. David tried to explain, but no one believed him. He was thrown into jail, accused of a crime he didn't commit. Days passed. Jack couldn't sleep. His guilt grew heavier each night. The laughter of their friendship echoed in his mind. Meanwhile, David sat behind bars, heartbroken yet calm. "A true friend doesn't run away," he whispered to himself, "but I still believe in goodness." One morning, the police discovered the real murderer, caught trying to steal evidence. The truth came out, and David was finally released. When Jack heard the news, he rushed to meet David, his eyes full of tears. "David, I'm sorry," he said, voice trembling. "I was selfish and scared. You suffered because of me." David placed a hand on his shoulder and said gently, "I forgive you, Jack. True friends stand by each other, not only in good times, but in the darkest hours too." They embraced, tears falling, not of sadness, but of forgiveness. The sword that once divided them became a symbol of a lesson that would last forever. Real friendship is tested not when life is easy, but when life is hard. Moral: true friendship is not about sharing joy, but about standing firm when storms come. Selfishness may win for a moment, but loyalty wins for life.